Remember Monkeybone? In 2001, at the peak of his fame from The Mummy and George of the Jungle, Brendan Fraser starred in one of the weirdest big-budget studio films ever released. Directed by Henry Selick, the stop-motion genius behind The Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach, Monkeybone was supposed to be a bold blend of live action, animation, and dark comedy. The plot found Fraser playing a cartoonist named Stu, who falls into a coma after a freak accident. His mind enters a twisted limbo world, filled with nightmarish creatures, repressed urges, and a lot of stop-motion chaos. While he's trapped there, his body is hijacked by Monkeybone, a crude, animated version of his inner identity, and one of his most well-known creations, voiced by none other than John Turturro. The cast also includes Whoopi Goldberg as Death, Rose McGowan as a Catgirl Reaper named Miss Kitty, Chris Kattan as a gymnast corpse with stolen organs, who becomes the battered body Stu takes over to try to get his own back, Giancarlo Esposito as the malicious, satyr-like god of sleep and ruler of downtown, and Mr. Nobody himself, Bob Odenkirk, in a small part as the head surgeon. The budget? Over $75 million. The box office return? Barely $7 million. Critics were baffled. Audiences stayed away, and Fox quietly buried it. But years later, Monkeybone has developed a cult following, partly because of its wild visuals, and partly because nobody can believe it actually exists. Want to see Brendan Fraser get possessed by a horny cartoon monkey and fight death itself? The Blu-ray is linked below, but good luck, it's a doozy. And that's why I gotta ask you, remember Thunder in Paradise? It was Hulk Hogan at his most over-the-top, piloting a stealth boat, rocking a ponytail, and throwing haymakers in the Florida sun. Originally released in 1993 as a direct-to-video movie, Thunder in Paradise was created by the team behind Baywatch. And it shows. The success of the movie launched a full TV series in 1994, shot almost entirely at Walt Disney World resorts, including the Grand Floridian and Epcot. Yeah, that means while tourists were eating churros, Hulk Hogan was out front blowing up bad guys in a missile-loaded speedboat named Thunder. Hogan played Randolph J. Hurricane Spencer, a widowed ex-Navy SEAL turned merc for hire, joined by his wisecracking best bud Brew, played by Chris Lemmon. Oh, and they had a precocious kid sidekick, because it was the 90s, obviously. The show only lasted one season, 22 episodes in all, but it didn't go quietly. It was repackaged into not one, but two sequels, Thunder in Paradise 2 and Thunder in Paradise 3. But plot twist, those sequels were just re-edited episodes bundled together and sold on VHS as standalone movies. Low effort, yeah, but if you were a kid in the 90s, it was still pretty awesome. The series also featured a ton of guest stars, especially from Hogan's WCW wrestling days, including Sting, Jimmy Hart, and Brutus the Barber Beefcake, making it part action show and part wrestling sideshow. Critics rolled their eyes, but the show gained a cult following, especially among kids who caught reruns on TNT. There was even a Thunder in Paradise video game for the Philips CDI console, now considered a so bad it's funny relic of gaming history. It may have been ridiculous, it may have been cheesy, but when that boat revved up and Hogan growled, you knew you were in for something unforgettable, like it or not. So I've got to ask you, remember Dolph Lundgren's The Punisher? Long before the MCU ruled the box office, back when Marvel was still pawning off characters like baseball cards to whoever could afford the rights, The Punisher quietly hit screens in 1989. Well, some screens, because in the US, it never made it to theaters. That's right, Dolph Lundgren, fresh off of Rocky IV and Masters of the Universe, starred as Frank Castle in a movie that was gritty, gory, and about as 80s as a leather trench coat soaked in blood and neon. There was no Skull logo, no comic book theatrics, and definitely no happy ending. Just a seething, sewer-dwelling vigilante who racked up over 190 confirmed kills by the film's end. No, seriously, they counted it. And while American distributors got cold feet, the film did hit theaters in countries like Germany, Australia, and Japan, where it actually found an audience. In some overseas markets, it even turned a profit. But the tone? Imagine a low-budget Death Wish by way of RoboCop, but filtered through the lens of a nihilist. It was violent, brooding, and surprisingly faithful to the spirit of the comics, even if it ditched the costume. Instead of flashy effects, you got Dolph monologuing shirtless in the sewer, asking God why his war never ends. A little bit like Rambo if he'd skipped therapy and went full-on urban assassin. And let's not forget the late great Louis Gossett Jr., fresh off his Oscar win for An Officer and a Gentleman. He played Castle's only real connection to humanity, a cop trying to pull his friend back from the abyss. He added a little bit of dramatic weight to a film that didn't quite deserve it, but it sorely needed it. The action scenes were pure Cannon Films energy. Shootouts in strip clubs, Yakuza sword fights, exploding motorcycles. All filmed with that glorious late 80s grime and grit. Critics, on the other hand, hated it. Fans were divided, but over time it gained a cult status. And Lundgren, he may not have had the skull on his chest, but he was the Punisher. He wore it on his face. Literally. Raw, stoic, and dead-eyed. 1989's Punisher has since been buried under more polished versions with Thomas Jane, Ray Stevenson, and John Bernthal. But this was the first live-action Frank Castle. Dark, gritty, forgotten by many, but unforgettable if you saw it at the right age. Because for a certain generation, this was the Punisher. So I've got to ask, do you remember Knockoff starring Jean-Claude Van Damme? It's alright if you don't. This one flew under the radar like a bootleg DVD. But I do remember, because this was peak late 90s JCVD chaos. And somehow, it ended up in my childhood VHS rotation.
Okay, don't go anywhere, okay? We're gonna have movie night, gonna make some popcorn, watch this, you sit, be comfortable, we'll be back.
Released in 1998, Knockoff is a Hong Kong Hollywood hybrid directed by action maestro Choi Hawk, a legend in Hong Kong cinema, best known for his early Once Upon a Time in China franchise, among other films. But here, he steered a wild American action flick about counterfeit designer jeans. And I don't mean the Sydney Sweeney kind, though that would have surely helped box office numbers. Van Damme plays a fashion rep trying to go legit when he gets caught in a plot involving the CIA, Russian terrorists, and nanotech bombs smuggled inside fake jeans. Yes, miniature bombs in pants. Kind of what Sydney Sweeney did with her jeans commercial, but I digress. This wasn't even Hawk's first collaboration with Jean-Claude Van Damme. That honor would go to the equally chaotic Double Team a year earlier. But it was the famed director's second attempt at breaking into the US industry. Pretty ironic that both attempts starred Jean-Claude Van Damme. So here he returns for another helping of Hawk. And guess who his partner is? Rob Schneider, the quintessential sidekick of the 1990s action comedy scene. Because when you're fighting international crime in Hong Kong, what you really need is the guy from Hot Chick shouting into a walkie-talkie.
It's me! Jessica!
Sure, the editing is frantic, the camera work feels like a fever dream, and the plot, well, it's just pure bonkers. But that's what gives Knockoff its strange, unforgettable charm. It's loud, absurd, and accidentally hilarious. JCVD is in all of his drug-fueled glory, sweating and doing his best Jackie Chan impression. And all of it was, well, kind of cool for a movie fanatic in the 90s. Has everyone involved made better movies? Absolutely. Even Rob Schneider. But Knockoff? It's a bizarre, fashion-forward action mess. And honestly, at the time, I wouldn't return it to Blockbuster for anything. So I gotta ask you, remember Almost Heroes? Chris Farley, Matthew Perry, a Lewis and Clark spoof that slipped right through the cracks of late 90s comedy and directly into my VHS player.
Let us get better acquainted.
Oh yes! You're gonna love this one.
Released in May of 1998, Almost Heroes was Chris Farley's final starring role, and it hit theaters just 5 months after his tragic passing in December of 1997. In the film, Farley plays Bartholomew Hunt, a rowdy, hard-drinking, barely functioning frontiersman, enlisted to lead an expedition to the Pacific. His partner, Leslie Edwards, a pompous aristocrat trying to prove he's more than just the powdered wig. Played by Friends star, the late Matthew Perry. Their mission is simple: beat Lewis and Clark to the West Coast. But their ragtag crew is a who's who of comedic talent, including Eugene Levy as a hilariously unhelpful translator.
Why do I laugh? You see, of the hundreds of languages that I speak fluent, this is not one of them.
Bad luck.
and many others. Not to mention Kevin Dunn as their rival, a villainous Spanish conquistador named Hidalgo. No, not that Hidalgo. That Hidalgo. It's dumb, chaotic, and loaded with Farley-style set pieces. Eagle attacks, pinecone dinners, you name it. The film was a throwback to classic buddy comedies. But audiences didn't show up. It was a box office bomb, grossing just over $6 million on a $30 million budget. And critics called it forgettable.
Don't you know any other goddamn tune? Huh?
But if you grew up with Farley, or discovered it on late night cable or a dusty VHS, Almost Heroes hits different. It's a flawed film, sure, but it's also a bittersweet send-off to a comedic force of nature. And here's the kicker. Even in this messy, slapstick final outing, Farley still manages to steal scenes with a big heart and unhinged energy.
Wait! I can read it. I can read it.
When you watch it now, it's impossible not to wonder what could have been. So sure, Almost Heroes isn't perfect, but it's part of Farley's legacy. And yeah, I loved it. So I gotta ask you, remember Senseless? You know, the 1998 comedy where Marlon Wayans drinks a sketchy science serum and gains superpowers. It's basically a comedic 90s version of Limitless. And I do remember it. Released during the wave of late 90s gross-out comedies, Senseless was a weird blend of slapstick, sci-fi, and college hijinks. Wayans plays Daryl Witherspoon, a broke economics student trying to win a high-paying internship. To get an edge, he signs up for a shady medical experiment that gives him heightened senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch, all one at a time. At first, these newfound abilities are a total game changer. He crushes tests, dominates hockey games, and somehow becomes a ladies' man overnight. But of course, with great power comes great responsibility. And things spiral out of control as the senses start turning on and shutting off randomly. One minute, he's a genius. The next minute, he's blind, deaf, or drooling in public. The real charm here is Marlon Wayans in full blast physical comedy mode. He's dodging security guards, screaming at smells, and flailing around in sensory overload. And opposite of him, well, none other than the smarmingly on-brand David Spade, playing the smug, rich corporate rival who sneers through every scene like he's just walked off the Tommy Boy set. Senseless didn't blow up at the box office, but it became a cable TV staple, one of those weird movies you catch halfway through on Comedy Central and you just let it ride. It's messy, loud, and full of 90s energy. So I gotta ask you, remember Dragnet? Dan Aykroyd, Tom Hanks? A buddy cop comedy loosely based on the classic TV series. Yeah, I remember. Released in the summer of 1987, Dragnet wasn't your standard reboot. It was more like a parody/homage, taking the straight-laced detective work of the 1950s show and smashing it head-on into the anything-goes absurdity of 1980s comedy. Dan Aykroyd plays Joe Friday, not the original, but the nephew with the namesake. He's still dead serious, still just the facts, ma'am, and he's been teamed up with a brand new partner in the form of Pep Streebek, played by Tom Hanks. This was pre-Big Hanks, right before he became a rom-com and drama icon. He was still making a name for himself as a comedy star in full fun-loving, wisecracking mode. And the case that they're on is pure lunacy. They're deep in a detective mystery involving pagan, people against goodness and normalcy, a bizarre cult dabbling in ritual sacrifice, with their hand in city corruption and, naturally, goat theft. One minute, Friday and Streebek are investigating stolen adult magazines. The next minute, they're sneaking into a lingerie runway show as part of an undercover sting. The movie's tone is a balancing act. Aykroyd delivers rapid-fire, old-school police jargon so dense it becomes its own joke. All the while, Hanks reacts to it like the audience's stand-in, baffled and amused at how his partner's brain works. When it hit theaters in June of '87, Dragnet pulled in over $66 million worldwide, a solid return for its $20 million budget. But critics were mixed. Some thought the parody angle was clever. Others felt it strayed too far from the no-nonsense drama of the original show. But for fans of buddy cop comedies like 48 Hours, Lethal Weapon, and Beverly Hills Cop, it was another piece of the 80s action comedy puzzle. And we can't forget the soundtrack. Hanks and Aykroyd even recorded a rap single called City of Crime for the film's end credits, complete with a gloriously awkward music video that's become a cult favorite all on its own. Looking back, Dragnet is a perfect late 80s time capsule. It's part police spoof, part buddy comedy, and part weird fever dream. But it works because Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd lean all the way into it. It's not just the facts, it's the facts, the jokes, the goats, and a full-blown trip into the 80s nostalgia that you can't pass up. So I have to ask you, remember Loaded Weapon 1? When National Lampoon brought together Emilio Estevez and Samuel L. Jackson to produce a wall-to-wall spoof of every cop movie you rented on VHS back in the day. Yeah, I remember. Released in 1993, it's a quick 83-minute romp that mainly skewers the first 3 Lethal Weapon films.
What's wrong?
Nothing. Taking a shit.
Then speedruns jokes about Die Hard, Basic Instinct, Rambo, Wayne's World, 48 Hours, and even Chips.
Nice driving.
Thanks.
It's a time capsule of movie cliches from the era, getting roasted in what was basically real time. The plot follows mismatched LAPD partners Jack Colt, Estevez, and Wes Luger, Jackson, on the hunt for a drug ring pushing the most 90s contraband imaginable, cocaine-laced Girl Scout cookies.
A little late to be selling cookies.
Troop leader says we are not meeting our quota.
The bench is stacked. John Lovitz as the Weasley Becker, Tim Curry as the Euro baddie named Jigsaw, Kathy Ireland as love interest Destiny Demeanor.
Do you hear something?
Nah.
Even William Shatner chewing scenery as General Motors, among others like Whoopi Goldberg, Frank McRae, and F. Murray Abraham spoofing Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs.
Identification, please.
Even Bruce Willis drops in to lampoon the one and only John McClane.
Yeah! No problem! No problem!
Sure, it's not naked gun-level classic, but it is a fizzy snapshot of 1993 spoof humor. So, if you grew up on 90s movies and snack foods that probably weren't FDA approved, Loaded Weapon 1 is a goofy, rapid-fire comfort watch. And that's why I've got to ask you, remember Kiss Kiss Bang Bang? Written and directed by Shane Black, it had Robert Downey Jr. before the iron suit, Val Kilmer as a PI named Gay Perry, and Christmas in Los Angeles with murder. A love letter to pulp written in sarcasm and lit with peppermint lights. Yeah, I do remember. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is Shane Black's return to the playground he helped build. A neon noir that laughs at the genre while loving it to pieces. Our guide is RDJ's Harry Lockhart, a New York thief who stumbles into a Hollywood audition while escaping a botched toy store robbery. And he gets the part. Val Kilmer steals scenes as Perry, the deadpan private eye hired to coach Harry for his new role. Perry is efficient, brutal, and 10 steps ahead until he isn't. Then there's Michelle Monaghan as Harmony, a small-town dreamer chasing acting gigs and closure for a family wound. Shane Black fills the corners with candy cane lights and pink cocktails. The gags are bold, but what really sings is the dialogue. Nobody says just a line. They volley, they jab. They circle the truth. This movie feels like a secret handshake. If you know, you know. It is both a satire of noir and a straight shot of it. A Hollywood story about how stories get told, and how we lie to ourselves until we make them make sense. Does it hold up? Absolutely. The timing still pops. The mystery still clicks into place. The Christmas setting gives it that weird, cozy mood you want when the jokes turn mean. And that's why I gotta ask you, remember Jerky Boys the movie? It's alright, not many do. Released in 1995, the film capitalized on the outrageous legacy of prank call legends Johnny Brennan and Kamal Ahmed, the original Jerky Boys, whose cassette tapes went platinum because of their no-holds-barred, foul-mouthed humor. In the movie, they played hyperbolic versions of themselves.
Hey, come on, it's not like we never had jobs. What about the Mason job we had a ways back?
Hey, you two, Johnny and Kamal. Get back to work, we got a job to finish here.
Two laid-back idiots from Queens, New York. Slackers who, through one ill-fated call pretending to be a Chicago mob boss, wound up tangled with the mafia.
Who the hell's Frank Rizzo?
Frank Rizzo? Frank Rizzo? Almost.
Am I supposed to know you, Mr. Rizzo?
Maybe it's better you don't there, beefy tits, because you'd be shitting your fucking pants if you did, pal.
It's a wild, goofy romp, laced with confusion, mistaken identities, and absurd scenarios.
I got problems there.
Rizzo. This might be something.
You know,
Run the name by our
them,
boys in
know,
Chicago.
Take them out,
Right,
show them a
Chief.
good time, paint up the town, paint each other up.
Yeah.
You know, give them the first-class treatment, the whole 9 yards.
Even Alan Arkin himself pops up as Ernie Lazaro, the bewildered mob boss.
Do I know you?
Sure you know me, Chief. We go way back. We used to shoo each other up the ass in the old days. Don't you remember, Ernie? We were good like that.
I knew you in the old days when you were with one of the families.
Lending his veteran chops to a film that otherwise thrives on raw, unfiltered silliness. One of the standout characters performed by Johnny is none other than Saul Rosenberg, the wheezy, neurotic New Yorker whose anxiety and endless ailments are showcased in classic Jerky Boy fashion. And here's the super cool fact. That same off-key, nervous voice was later repurposed by Brennan to create none other than Mort Goldman. Yeah, that's right, Family Guy's Mort.
So I came in as Mort, and that character is, we call him Sal Rosenberg's long-lost cousin.
Hello, yes, Peter, hi. Hey, Lois, hi.
And Sal Rosenberg, the Jerky Boy, is a little bit more like,
so should I bring all my shoes and my glasses?
So if you've ever laughed at Mort on TV, you've been hearing a piece of Jerky Boy's magic all along. Now buckle up for the most unexpected twist, one of the many cameos in the Jerky Boys the movie, besides a pre-Sopranos Vincent Pastore.
I can't find pussy anywhere.
What? Jesus Christ. I gotta sit down.
And a wig-wearing, cigar-chomping William Hickey, well, out of nowhere, as our prank call heroes are trying to escape mob clutches, the duo find their way into a rock club, where Ozzy Osbourne appears as the band manager for Helmet. Yup, the late great Ozzy, Prince of Darkness himself, standing there in full rock star mode, completely dumbfounded as Johnny and Kamal convince him that they've replaced a pair of roadies who skipped out on the gig to tour with the Monkees. Yeah, the Monkees. Ozzy's reaction is priceless. He actually blurts out, in utter disbelief,
The fucking Monkees! You're kidding me!
And this isn't just a brief throwaway cameo. It's a perfect collision of metal and comedy, a moment where low-budget absurdity meets rock legend status. Even though the Jerky Boys the movie wasn't a critical darling, Ozzy's unexpected appearance adds a layer of irony and nostalgia.
Sharon!
And Ozzy brings his same unpredictable Osbourne energy here. In a single scene, he reminds us that in the wild 90s, anything could happen on a bargain VHS tape. And while the Jerky Boys might be a chaotic relic of the 90s prank culture, it gave us unforgettable moments.
What does that have to do with anything?
Because I can't see, damn it, you son of a bitch.
Let me speak to your manager.
I'm sorry, just a minute.
Boy, can you believe this guy?
Yeah, Burger Bob, give me your fucking order there, tough guy.
That's one VHS tape I'm eternally grateful that my dad picked up. A bizarre mashup of mobsters, prank calls, and movie and rock legends. And it still gives me a kick. So I've got to ask you, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.